unnecessary state of mind. We'd be completely senile or insane if that didn't function properly. Now, clearly the function of discrimination is crucial in this job of distinguishing between your neuroses and your virtues, because that's the job of becoming a Buddha. So we've got to have that honed to an incredible degree. Then you've got another state of mind that's always present every second of the day. It's called intention. That's the meaning of the word karma. Karma means action. Well, the whole process of the sowing seeds, as they would say, the whole process of creating karma, quote unquote, which is this process of programming our consciousness, of leaving seeds in the mind that will bring future fruits, it's a highly sophisticated process, starts with intention. Or another word is volition. I will. If this is not there, nothing happens. Now this is surprising to us because we seem to do everything on autopilot. We're basically instinctive, aren't we? We do everything automatically. It's because we've practiced intention to do them so often that it now is second nature. We just don't notice. It's like we talk about the brilliance of the brain. It's true, the brain is a brilliant thing. Well, we're talking the cognitive process here of our own mental consciousness. That's an absolute ingenious, brilliant tool. So to do anything at all, you have to have the intention. We don't notice though. So if I want to walk out that door, the first thing that has to happen is I have to have the thought, I will walk out that door. But even that happens so quick, we don't notice it. But before you know it, I'm standing up, looking in that direction and walking towards the door. Well, my legs don't know the way, I promise you. My mind decided I will walk out the door. Look at animals. We say, oh, they don't have conceptuality. They're programmed with conceptuality. But it's programmed from countless past lives. It's all happening continuously in all sentient beings. Buddhist psychology refers to all sentient beings, not just humans. So intention, every second it's there. Every millisecond it is in there. But the next one is attention. You home in. So intention, I walk out the door, and then attention makes me focus in. Then all the other bits of my mind, the concentration has to be there, the mindfulness has to be there, discrimination has to be there, otherwise I'll bump into Ruth and wonder why Ruth doesn't open. Why can't I get out the door? Bash, bash. Because I haven't got good discrimination. Because I can't tell the difference between Ruth and the door. This is all happening like incredibly quickly. Unbelievably. We take it all for granted. These are the third category. So they become developed. Because, in meditation, you're not using love and compassion. You're not using anger and attachment. They've come in, but this other lot are the ones that are doing the job. The neutral ones, we're trying to develop those. Okay, it's virtue that wants you to do the meditation. That's there. But in the meditation itself, you wouldn't have love or compassion. That's a misconception. It's wrong. Get it out of the way. You'll have determination to persevere, all those. But it's mainly that you could say it's all this training, attention, discrimination, concentration, mindfulness, alertness. These are getting better and better until eventually you've completely perfected mindfulness, no longer to apply it anymore. And then there's another one called alertness. Dalai Lama calls it the policeman. The trouble is there are so many translations in English alone, you'd never know that these words refer to each other. So a lot of people now refer to this as introspection. In a million years you wouldn't think introspection is the same as alertness. But this is different terms translated by different people, unfortunately. It's very confusing. So, okay, the main ones in concentration meditation, you can say this, the ones we have to learn to develop. This is our problem too, because what we say is, I'm watching my breath. And of course we believe there's a little mini me in there watching the breath. Well, there's no part in here called I, okay? So there's not any part called I watching the breath. That's the fantasy. We'll talk about emptiness later. Which bit of our mind is working together to have the experience of watching the breath? Well, you could say the very first one is attention. Pay attention to the breath. That's the bit doing the job. But now, because we're berserk with attachment, within a millisecond you're thinking about the chocolate cake, or you're thinking about your enemy. So the mind goes, attention just loses the plot, it's gone, you know. So attention has no strength now, you could say. There's zero concentration. There's no mindfulness, there's no alertness. So either you're berserk thinking about other things, or you go to sleep, you know. So attention is the bit that does the job. But it's got to be supported by all these other pieces, you know. So you've got to strengthen. You've got to strengthen the ability to not wander off. You've got to strengthen attention, if you like. And the bit that does that is mindfulness, which is not forgetting what you're doing. Then the bit that helps mindfulness is called alertness. Dalai Lama calls it the policeman. It's like watching like a hawk to make sure everything's working nicely, you know. So there's all these different parts of our mind doing this job. But we're just so obsessed with I'm watching the breath, I'm meditating. We'll never get anywhere thinking this way. You're not trying to train I to do anything. You're trying to train attention. You're trying to train mindfulness. You're trying to train alertness. You're trying to train all these bits of the mind. We have that knowledge about the body. We know all the bits of the muscles exactly. We just don't keep saying, I'm doing the push-ups. We know that with the coach, they'll say this muscle, that muscle, we have to train this one. We're geniuses at knowing the parts of the body, but we know zero about the parts of our mind. And I'm not talking about the brain here. I'm talking about the actual parts of your own cognitive process, of the thinking process. It's unbelievably sophisticated, and we have no control over it. We're just berserk. Any questions? I forgot about questions, I'm so sorry. Any questions? Shall we do a little session of 5 minutes mindfulness or 5 minutes Mahamudra and go to bed? Any questions? About anything? About this, or what are we talking about? Nothing. No? Yes, sweetie. Go.
I'm not sure how to put this. There is like a history of a mind, one mind.
History?
Yeah, or habits of my mind.
Yeah, you've learned a bunch of habits. That's how come you can do anything today, because you've practiced them before. Yeah, that's called karma.
So, if I don't refer to it as my mind...
Do we have a microphone? Do you... Because it's very hard to get the sound here. Is it better to have the questions, so otherwise you can't only hear my answers? What good is that? I know, but do we have a microphone? We don't.
Yeah, but it's only on this side of the room. I don't think it will get there.
But we're talking about the recording, honey.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I see. Well, let me have that and she can have this. No, just sit there, just relax. Do our best anyway. See if we can pick it over. Sorry. Because sometimes on recordings you can hear the answer but not the question, so it's infuriating. Oops, so won't go. Okay. I'll give you a little bit. There you go. Oh, okay. So do our best. Okay, what's the question, sweetheart? Okay, go on. Go on, press it up. Now talk.
Okay.
Go on.
I'm thinking about having a certain mind. Like my mind has its habits and history, kind of.
Well, yeah, of course you have. That's called, the Buddhist way would say it would be these different imprints in your mind from having done and thought things before. We call that learning. We call it habits, you know, whether it's playing the piano or being angry or playing football. It's a bunch of habits, yeah. That's right, exactly. Go on, then. That's your mind. Then.
But, okay, what's tricky for me, I'm not sure
Yeah.
how to put this, but it's something about it being my mind.
Of course, what is it? It's a dog's mind, a cat's mind, my mind, it's your mind. What's wrong?
the I in my.
Darling, don't get carried away and get ahead of yourself.
Okay.
We're talking conventional reality here. And that's our biggest problem. As soon as we hear Buddha talk about no self, we start getting all ridiculous. Darling, conventionally, you exist. Conventionally, that's a thermos. Conventionally, I'm using words. And you can understand them because you know the definitions. We are talking ordinary conventional reality. And you exist, and you have a mind. Emptiness comes later. So relax. It's your mind. That's it. Just leave it there and relax. It's your mind, I promise. It ain't somebody else's. You'll be in trouble if it is. This is conventional reality. The ultimate is another discussion, and that's emptiness. But we've got to first understand conventional. And we'll go into that more tomorrow or the next day. Okay? Could you wait?
Yes.
You exist, okay? Relax. You have a mind, okay? What else? Yeah. Yeah. What to do with the mic? We can't do much. Try. Go. Yes. Yes.
I don't know if I understand.
Turn the button up. Press the button up.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't know if I understood correctly. You said that Mahamudra meditation starts with focusing on a thought.
On the what?
On a thought,
On the whatever thoughts are popping up in your mind. Exactly.
but that's like a subject focusing on an object.
Exactly. That's
Right.
exactly correct. 100% full marks for your answer. So what's the problem with that? What's the problem?
Is my understanding of Mahamudra, or maybe of Dzogchen, is an objectless meditation.
Well,
It's-
that's a different discussion. We're talking Mahamudra here.
It's not like Dzogchen.
It's not the words. It's similar, but there are different words in different traditions that understand these things differently. So we're here discussing the way the Kagyu and the Gelugpas talk, and this is the language. This is the correct. And actually, it's the correct language in all Buddhist psychology. So objectless, that's a way of... So you could argue another point. When eventually you have realizations and you've gone to a subtler level of your mind, then indeed they would say that subject and object have merged like water mixed with water. That's objectless then. That the experience of no longer duality. That's the result. So that's not wrong to say that.
Okay.
Mahamudra the same.
But then, when you have this result, when you sit in
That's
Mahamudra,
highly advanced when you've got it. I mean, maybe Dzogchen speaks differently, but when you have a realization at a subtler level of your mind, even of the clarity of your mind, it would be an experience of being object and subject merged together. That would be the experience.
okay, thank you.
Okay? Good, thank you. What else, people? Anything? But Dzogchen definitely talks differently. There's one, if you want to go into this in more detail, the Dalai Lama, in 1982, Lama Yeshe invited His Holiness, when Lama Yeshe had this sort of 6 months of Dharma teachings, he called it at the time Enlightened Experience Celebration. And about 700 of his students all went to India for 6 months, and he gave us all these masses of teachings and initiations. And we were in His Holiness's temple in Dharamsala, and Lama had requested His Holiness to teach on the Panchen Lama's text. So that book has now been published and translated by Alex Berzin, and it's this marvellous commentary by His Holiness that goes into detail about every variation of these types of techniques in Tibetan Buddhism and how they all come to the same thing. But the language and the way to do are different. But it's a wonderful commentary. It's called the Kagyu Gelug something of Mahamudra. But it's including all these things, including Dzogchen. Beautiful book. Any other questions? No other questions. Okay. Okay, well, we just see if we can look at our minds for 5 minutes. Okay? So just be very natural, very normal. Don't think you're doing anything holy. Don't get all excited. I'm going to be holy and meditate. Just be normal, like you're doing the most normal thing, like sleeping or going to the toilet. But you're going to sit up straight. If you're in a chair, don't slump into the chair. If you can, sit up straight and have your feet firmly planted on the ground. So let's just go through the classical meditation posture that all the great meditators over the centuries have found to be the most conducive for useful meditation. Because you remember, please, the body does not meditate. We're so obsessed with our bodily feelings, you know. The body, in fact, is in the way, so drag, this bag of bones, you know. So it's helpful to have it in an appropriate position. And taking into consideration this more advanced model of the body and the mind that's described in the Vajrayana, then given that we've got this subtle nervous system coursing through our entire body, and all our states of mind with their wind energies are coursing through these channels, then we need to have them flowing very nicely. So to have the body slumped or like this is hopeless, a disaster, you know. So the first part of there's about 7 or 8 points about the posture that all the yogis over the centuries have developed because it's been most useful. So the first, they always say the best, the ideal for when all the energies are really configured very nicely is to be in what they call the Vajra position, each instep on the other thigh. If you can do that, fantastic. His Holiness says, in the advanced completion stage tantric meditations, we need to sit in that posture, apparently. So it's auspicious to start your session, even for half a second, in that position, just to sort of be auspicious for the cause to be able to sit like that when you become a great yogi. If you can't do both insteps on the other thigh, do one. If you can't do that, just sit ordinary cross-legged. And if you can't do that, be like, you know, some of us in a chair. So either case, when you're sitting upright like this, you're holding up your own back. And so that's why, so when they say that the full lotus position, your body's incredibly stable. The great yogis can stay like that sitting up for months, literally weeks, hours, days, without toppling over. It's very stable, having your body like that. So the next thing is in relation to this, is the bottom, your bottom, you know. So so if you've got very flexible legs, like if you've been sitting cross-legged all your life, you will have, and we haven't had, then like some of the Asians, you know, they easily sit in that position. Then you'd have something just propping up under your coccyx, just a little bit, a small cushion to prop you up, to help you sort of like slightly tilted forward. It makes you very stable. But you've got to find the cushion that works for you, because we've all got different kinds of bodies, you know. The next one, the third part of the body, the third piece, there's the hands, and there's very many yogis have different positions, you know. So this is the classic one that we're taught. Your arms not squashed against your body, but your arms like this. Your left underneath, right on top, thumbs touching, forming a triangle. I heard way back years ago, and I can't remember the source, that there's 2 subtle channels that touch at the tips of the thumbs that are related to bodhicitta. I don't know where I got that from, but I heard it. I hope I'm not misleading you. But if you don't like that, you can sit here like this. Some yogis sit like this, you know, different things. What works? The next is your back itself. So, you know, technically your spine isn't straight, but you have to have your body upright. It's really crucial to allow all the energies to flow smoothly, you know. So I like to think of it this way. This is my way of saying it. Think of your skeleton hanging on a hanger. It would be completely straight, wouldn't it? There's no tension. Your bones are all straight. Now imagine all your soft bits, all your muscles and everything, relaxing, hanging on the bones, but completely relaxed. So they say I like to put it this way, if your bones are upright, you're like on a hanger, everything's straight, but your muscles need to be relaxed. But as soon as we sit upright, we hold tension in the body. As soon as we relax the muscles, we flop our body. So keep your body upright, and now relax your muscles, but don't flop. Relax your muscles, especially abdomen. I don't know why we all don't look at. I think we don't like looking fat, so we squeeze our abdomen muscles, you know. Just sit up straight, your bones, but relax your muscles. Your shoulders should be square, not not slumping. Square, but the same, relaxed. Upright, but relaxed. The next final one is your head. Several points about that. The first is to have the head slightly tilted forward, because if we have the head thrust back, this kind of makes the mind agitated, let's say. So your head slightly tilted forward. Chin tucked in a little bit. And you have a feeling of it, it's sort of a feeling of slightly, of like looking inward, isn't it? If your head's thrust back, it's kind of awkward. Then your jaw relaxed. Lips apart, slightly open. Feels a bit odd, but they say that. Then your tongue feels very odd, but there's logic to it. resting behind the top teeth, just near the palate. This is from the yogi's experiences who meditate along many hours, that it prevents you from dribbling. It prevents you from the spit running out. And I think it also prevents you from swallowing the spit all the time, apparently. It's very practical. So your tip of the tongue resting behind the top teeth. Lips slightly apart. Jaw relaxed. Head tilted forward. And the final bit, well, two more bits, is the eyes. All the great yogis, actually, who meditate, who've got good concentration, they keep their eyes open if they're meditating during the day, because all the light can come in that helps their mind stay very sharp. And they don't get distracted because their mind's more subtle, but the light comes in, which keeps them sharp. We need to keep the mind sharp. But if we get so distracted, then you don't keep your eyes open, you know. So, lightly closed. But underneath your eyelids, have your eyes looking downwards as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. This is the position. So settle into this now and then forget all about it. Don't be self-conscious, you know, oh, I'm meditating. Just cancel it out. The only reason to have the body in this position is to make it conducive for your mind to do its job. Okay? Okay. So now, again, what we're doing, remember the bits of your mind. Don't get too caught up in it, but just remember. Try not to think, I'm meditating. Just confuses. So there's various parts of your mind all working together to have the experience of attempting to concentrate. So attention. So we're going to pay attention, the first state of mind, to whatever arises in your thoughts. That's it. Don't try to locate it. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to think a thought. Don't try to judge it. You simply attempt to focus, pay attention to whatever pops up in your mind. And it's the same as if you're looking at your breath. You know, you want the mindfulness not to lose your memory. Alertness brings your mind back to the breath if you forget. So alertness is helping mindfulness do its job, and they're both helping attention do its job of learning to concentrate. So think about that, but then just simply now, without thoughts, simply pay attention for a few minutes with strong determination. Pay attention to your thoughts. Just bring your attention back to the thoughts. That's it. Just adjust your mind. Stay alert. Don't space out. Bring your attention back to the breath, back to the mind. So now I think relax. Just relax. 3 or 4 minutes quality is superior to 20 minutes spacing out. Really, that's a serious point actually. Because we're so addicted to wanting to feel good, you know. We think it's relaxation. We have many misconceptions about meditation, this concentration. We think it's an alternative to a pill. We think it's to make the thoughts all go away. We think it's to feel good. This is not the point. None of those is the point. So as Lama says in the book, you know, let's say one day you're trying to focus on your mind and your mind's berserk. Well, be happy. Focus on the berserk. You've got this obsession you want to make it all go away and have la-di-da, you know. It's ridiculous. Whatever's there, you focus on it. Okay, if it gets too bad, you relax and open your eyes and go and have a cup of tea, you know. The aim of this is the first part of Mahamudra. It's just the beginning. This is the very first part. Then gradually, if we can actually have an experience of the clarity of the mind, which is the conventional nature, that's the second part, if you like, then that leads us then to do the real part, which is to see the emptiness of the mind. That comes next. That's the crucial piece of the Mahamudra component, which we'll talk about more. So any questions? Will that do? Okay. So homework. You're on retreat mode, okay? I mean, I don't know if you do this, but this is what I like. We've got to talk in the day, aren't we? Yeah. More the better talking, I'm happy, but during the day. But I can't police you, I won't police you, but the talking in the day, for me, I think it's useful to talk about the teachings, talk about these things, then it's really rich practice. But evening, let's say now, we go on retreat mode, which means you act as if you're here on your own. You mind your own business. You be rude to everybody and ignore them. Which is hard because we're obsessed with being social. You know? Just ignore people. It's so easy. They say yogis and yoginis walk straight ahead. Like we're set up like little birds moving left and right all the time, you know, see what's going on. It's walk straight ahead. So that's a really nice practice. Just mind your own business, be internal. No words. Silent. Retreat mode. So you can write in a little journal, you can look at the sky. Well, it's a bit dark, isn't it? You can't look at the sky tonight. Whatever. Then when you go, so the next bit of homework, when you go to sleep, you hit the pillow, you make a decision, 2 decisions. One decision, you make a strong determination, may I see my dreams as dreams. Meaning, when you're dreaming, you notice that you're dreaming. This is really powerful. People call it, when people do it really strongly, they call that, I think, in the world, lucid dreaming. But that just means you're in touch with your subtle consciousness. That's the part of your mind that does the dreaming. And it can be very clear. And that's marvellous if it can be. So, as His Holiness says, if you can be aware that you're dreaming, great, grab the opportunity to meditate on emptiness. Because your mind's more subtle. It's a much more potent level. Most of us